Good evening, boys and girls. Tonight we have a special edition of the Slip Angle Podcast. Joining us is our very special guest, Mr. Lawrence Stubbs. He is the owner of, oh man, I'm going to butcher this, Sarasota Super Sport Performance. Yeah. I want to say Sansoda, not Sarasota. I don't know why that was in my head, but
it wasn't supposed to be a tongue twister, but yeah.
It's a little bit of a tongue twister for me. But I'm also special, so bear with me here.
And Sarasota is a town in Florida, correct?
Yeah,
That's what it's named after. Okay. And if you couldn't tell based on what's in the background, what do you do to Miatas?
So so our tagline is we turn ND Miatas into NV Miatas, right?
Yeah.
And that's our catchy. That's
like
the
that.
catchy motto there. The other one is delivering the world's smallest muscle car.
Yep.
And that's what this is, man. I decided that, this is the Flying Miata. They used to do this, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is their program. I took it over for them recently, and this is the proof of concept car, the test car. And so what we do is the LS3 conversion for ND1s primarily, but NDs in general.
Yeah, and I think ND1 is a good choice for that because they had the issues with the transmission. They had the less powerful engine from the factory, so
Engine
I think it's
underwhelming.
Yeah, it's a more desirable because you can get them for a cheaper price. I think is that the main philosophy behind that.
Yeah, and plus the CAN integration was designed. It was all done during ND1 before the ND2 came along and Mazda made the wiring changes.
Yep.
So it can be done for ND2s, but until I've actually done it, I can't say what the side effects are going to be. I just don't know. It'll run. I know it'll run. I know it'll be fine and it'll be enjoyable. But for example, if some electronic feature that got added in ND2 isn't functional anymore, is it going to beep at you every 5 minutes while you're driving? I just don't know until we've done that. So for now, we focus on the ND1s because that's what it was designed for.
Cool.
And so tell us about the powertrain for here. What model LS is this?
So this is an LS3. It's a crate engine LS3. Everything I do is new in boxes. No donor cars, no junkyard parts. The only thing that we take that's used is some things that are discontinued from GM. So you've got power steering reservoir out of a first generation CTSV. So those are discontinued and very hard to find. Probably get I'm working with a company to fabricate a replacement with the same dimensions so it'll fit.
Yep.
And then the rear end is a 5th gen Camaro's rear end. The differential is from the 1LE package, so it's got the 391 gear set. Differential assembly is discontinued from GM, so I take used ones and then I get them rebuilt and resealed. But the customer cars are all going to be like this one with the 391 rear end.
And it's a T56?
T56 transmission. It's got a custom gear set though, so it's not the same gearing as what's in a 5th gen Camaro. Most of the stuff here is what you would find in a 5th gen Camaro in terms of drivetrain. The hydraulic steering rack is a 5th gen Camaro hydraulic steering rack. And then it's got the tie rod ends are a little bit shorter to fit the Miata.
Oh, I didn't realize you had the steering rack changed. It feels like if the steering feels like a Miata. It didn't feel interrupted.
Yeah, it felt like we actually drove this car today.
Yeah, so we just came back from our track review. Yeah, I literally had no idea that, unless you just told me, I wouldn't have known.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that's a plus.
So kudos. Yeah, that's good.
It's a plus. It's a little different, but it is hydraulic and you're a much heavier wheel and tire package up front, so it doesn't feel, the steering didn't quite feel exactly like in a 4-cylinder Miata, but I'm glad that it was not apparent to you that it would have been swapped out, that it means it just works well. And Flying Miata, I got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, they did all the engineering, they did the homework, and it just works. And that's why I feel confident in putting this car together for folks.
Yeah.
And that they'll enjoy it. And really, it's a one of a kind, a really unique driving experience.
Oh, I said that in the track impression. I mean, this is unlike any Miata I've ever driven. I've driven some higher horsepower forced induction cars. This is just completely different. Different animal. So tell us a little bit about just the performance specs for the engine in this state of tune.
Sure. So this one's got a hot cam for kind of sort of like the high watermark. So really, yes, you get a little bit more power. This hot cam is a little conservative. It's basically the ASA cam that GM, I believe they developed on the LS1 or the LS2. So it's an older cam. I forget if it was for like circle track racing or sprint car racing applications is what the cam was designed for. But bottom line is it gives it a lot more top end. On the LS3, it just kind of shifts the whole power curve. It's not, you don't sacrifice bottom end or mid range for top end. It just shifts everything up.
Yep.
Like another 20, 40 horsepower. So
I mean, this has plenty of download grunts, so like,
Yeah.
you're not even giving up a little wouldn't be detrimental to it.
No, it's real, and the real reason for it is just the sound. It just makes the driving experience. It gives it more of the retro muscle car kind of
chop. Yeah.
chop. Exactly, the Lopi idle. It comes in at at exactly 436 rear wheel horsepower, 438 pound-feet of torque at the wheels.
Wow. That was on a dyno jet.
So on dyno jet, yep.
And then how about the weight? I know you said the weight distribution has not really changed all that much, even with this.
So on the RF, it's perfect 50-50.
Yeah, well, that's great.
So you do gain weight. So RF, so this is the high water mark, right?
Yep.
RF, V8, this is as heavy as Miata is going to get. So with a 200-pound driver, it comes in at 2990 pounds. And it's 50-50, perfect 50-50 weight distribution front and rear.
I mean, 2790 with that much
2790.
power is like still. I'm trying to think if I've ever driven something that was that high a horsepower and that low a weight.
I mean, the FD would be close to that, right? But that doesn't even have the close to the torque.
Actually, the FD would probably be the closest thing, but it's just it's a wildly different car because the FD makes 180 horsepower off boost, not 438 naturally aspirated horsepower or naturally aspirated foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah, and the power band is just much different in the FD.
Way different.
Much different.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. Like it was very surreal for me because I've driven an ND on track before, and like it felt just like an ND, like going through the corners and everything. I'm just lugging the engine though, because you really don't have to rev it out. Like it was just so easy to carry speed.
You had torque. You had torque everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah. But yeah, when you are even with the exhaust that you have on here, that's valved and it's based off a throttle input. I mean, when I was like doing cool down laps and just talking on the experience, other than the V8 Lope, like at those low cruise RPMs, you wouldn't know that was a V8 car. So
yeah, the exhaust is fantastic. So the company that provides the exhaust, they do an excellent job, and it sounds like when it's in the quiet mode, when the valves are closed, it sounds like an OEM V8 car, like what you would expect, like a Corvette that come off the showroom floor, or a 5th gen Camaro off the showroom floor. It's civil.
A wife happy one.
Is that the standard exhaust that you? Oh, that comes with the
all the cars are going to come with this exhaust.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I thought I was cool, Lawrence, because I just bought a new Supra and I bought some expensive titanium exhaust that was compatible with the factory valve. But I have to press the button to manipulate that valve. The fact that this does it based on different throttle positions was pretty cool.
Yeah. So again, as another flying Miata, they put that in there, and it's controlled on the wiper stalk setting.
Oh,
so on the speed.
No way.
So on your, when you have it in the intermittent position, and you can set it fast or slow, that's your fast is your loud all the time, slow is quiet all the time, and then each speed, there's 3 settings basically. There's 25% throttle, 50% throttle, and 75% throttle. So it's not really a volume thing, it's just when it opens.
Yeah.
And I think personally my favorite is the 25%.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
When you're decelerating and you're idling at a stop sign or whatever, it's quiet, just purring along. But as soon as you roll into it, if you're putting along, it just never opens. It's just quiet.
Yeah.
But as soon as you just give it a little bit of go pedal, then it just opens up.
Which is awesome because like if you're passing a cop or something, you literally just lift a little bit and it's like it's back down tamed. But even with it open, I wouldn't say it wasn't obnoxious by any means. Like it sounded proper.
Yeah.
It sounded like a sports car.
Yeah, it wasn't excessive, and it wasn't like a stock car, like where it's you want more.
It doesn't sound like Billy Ray's IROC Z with straight pipes and glass packs.
It's got high flow cats in it, right?
It does,
and a muffler. Yeah, it's going to be pretty tame. Yeah, that's great.
And then you said that there's an off the shelf suspend. Well, actually, so aside from the motor, because is the suspension package an option or is that included? Because I know
Included, yep.
So this is really a whole turnkey build.
Yeah, it's a whole turnkey build. So basically, the car only comes one way, and this is it. And your only option is, do you want the camshaft or not? And that's a no-cost option. So it's just what your preference
that's cool.
is. Do you want the low-P muscle car? I think most people
do the
will.
cam.
Can you hear that, guys? Do you want the hotter cam? Yes. No charge
who's
update.
gonna say no?
I know, really. Who's going to say no to that?
Well, it's an option.
That's cool.
So if you got cranky neighbors, I don't know, or you have other considerations, or you've already got an outrageous choppy cam car and you just want something to purr like a factory Corvette, but in this packaging, then we can do it. We'll just leave in the stock LS3 cam. It'll probably bring you in somewhere around 400 rear wheel horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque. We haven't tested one, dynoed one.
I think that sounds about right for a factory LS3, right around 400 wheel.
They're rated at 430
Yeah.
at the crank, so that'll probably be where it comes in, 390, 400.
Yep.
But to your question about the suspension, it's a Fox suspension. It's designed exclusively for this car, so they designed it for Flying Miata when Flying Miata was building these cars.
It's good.
And it's
Oh, yeah,
fantastic.
you can feel dampening is very well controlled. Yeah.
There's some bumpy spots on the proving grounds, more like on the curbing areas that you clip, and it wasn't unsettling the car at all.
And this one was in the middle setting, so when you were driving it today, so in terms of the compression, rebound, the damper setting, it was in the middle.
I think it was well damped versus the tire compound, the RT660s. Yeah, the Zennies.
Yep. How is the mounting with the subframes? Like how does that work? Because this has got a Camaro diff.
Yep.
What kind of modifications do you have to make to the rear subframe?
We retain the factory subframes, front and rear, but they got to be modified.
Yep.
So the rear one obviously gets modified for the mounting points. The Mazda diff kind of mounts with upward bolts.
Yep.
This one has one in the back that goes transverse, so parallel to the axle. So we've got to we weld the mount points for that, and then it mounts up at the front like two lobes on either side of where the drive shaft mounts onto it. So that's got to also be created, and then there's additional bracing, obviously, because there's a lot more twist going on. So the rear subframe gets a lot of additional bracing and extra stuff welded onto it to handle it. The front subframe gets the mounting points for the engine mounts, and then the steering rack actually has to be relocated forward a little bit to make room for the engine. And so the mounting points have to be mounted on the front. So there's a couple of provisions that are welded onto the subframe on the front to make room for the steering rack, the Camaro SS, or the 5th gen Camaro steering rack. In addition, there's additional mounting points welded on for the front sway bar. So the sway bar's got to be moved forward a little bit too.
Gotcha.
That creates some suspension issues, which Flying Miata already accounted for. So there's some adapters for the tie rod ends to account for bump steer.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And so those are just part of the form. One of the many parts list. A lot of people think, oh, it's an LS3 swap. It's an LS swap. So like, it's an engine swap. Oh, okay, and it's a transmission. So they're thinking like a handful of parts. It's actually the parts list is. It's roughly 270, 260 line items long, and it's 60 different suppliers in total, from California to Poland and everywhere in between, all the way up to Massachusetts, Moroso. Moroso does the oil pans, so the oil pans come from Moroso. CSF does the radiators. They design the radiators for Flying Miata
CSF
for
makes
this
good
car.
stuff. Yep.
Everything comes out. Basically, the only thing Mazda, the body, the interior, and electronics, like the interior electronics, and then the actual suspension arms themselves. The subframes are still Mazda, but they're heavily modified.
And I mean, power plant frame goes away, right?
Correct.
And then
Transmission mount, I'm guessing.
Which brings a good point. So the transmission mount, Flying Miata called it the spider brace. So there's a 6-point brace underneath it that goes from frame rail to frame rail, and the transmission mounts on top of that with a polyurethane bushing from
Gotcha.
Energy Suspension provides those.
I was going to say, I mean, the chassis, and I said this in the review, the chassis handles the power of the car. It's plenty rigid. It doesn't feel like sometimes when you do a big torquey V8 swap and like say an NA Miata, right? The chassis doesn't feel
the flex.
Yeah, it doesn't feel quite as up to the task.
Flying Miata claimed they told folks when they were doing it. I think maybe, I don't know if this was measured or instrumented, so I don't want to like misspeak here, but they claimed that it was stiffer than the with that brace, no power plant frame, but now the brace is stiffer
than with the power
stock ND.
Yeah, I would believe that.
So,
no, it felt good. Felt very good.
And how about the shifter? Can you use like the standard shifter that comes with the T56? Or
so the Camaro shifter is discontinued, so I went to the aftermarket for the shifter. The cool thing about the T56, in this case, it's the Magnum F, so it's a special version of Magnum for F body GM cars. So like late 90s, early 2000 Camaros, Firebirds,
yeah.
And if I have this correctly, that puts the shifter location in a different spot a little bit. For the tail section is a little bit longer, which just so happens to put it exactly where it needs to be in the factory location for the Mazda shifter.
Oh wow!
Front and back, it's almost dead center, and then it's like offset just to one side, to the driver's side, by like less than 3/4 of an inch. So I have an aftermarket supplier who provides the shifters. I think they're out of, I don't want to get this wrong, but it's MGW. So shout out to MGW because they came through for me, and they provided the shifters. He had some shifters that they had cooked up for some BMW clients that were doing LS and T56 swaps, and he thought they would work. So he sent me over some to try. First we tried some of his other shifters, and they were just kind of too bulky and didn't quite get it in the right spot. But then these were like perfect. The offset on where you mount the rod onto the shift lever, I should say, was just enough to recenter it. That a little bit more. So now instead of being like 3/4 inch off to one side, it's now like 1/4 or 1/8 of inch off to the other side. So it's almost dead center. It's really cool that it just lined up. There's no like weird linkage that's got to happen to get it in place.
That's great.
For a whole powertrain swap and transmission swap, it doesn't feel
That felt right.
out of place. Yeah, I mean, and like I have to tip my hat to you because I've driven swap cars before, and a lot of times you could immediately tell that it's a swap car. And I'm not saying because the engine itself is different. I'm saying because it's just the integration of it in a place that it didn't originally wasn't intended to be in. You feel that, and this felt like this came from the factory. I mean, aside from how rampant it is, right? Like in the characteristic of the engine itself, but like just in terms of usability of it.
Like getting in and hitting the OEM starter button.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
it's just such a nice touch to it.
You could tell that you spent a lot of time tailoring this package to be cohesive.
Yeah, well, Flying Miata did. They figured it out. And I truly believe that someone in Mazda, someone in Hiroshima secretly wanted somebody to do this and left just enough space. Because it literally the fact that the shifter just lines up perfectly and the engine, there's no cutting on the frames or anything like that. Everything just
there's some
barely
cowboy somewhere
fits.
in Hiroshima.
Yeah, just barely fits.
He's like, God darn it, I'm so tired of doing these 100 horsepower cars. Like, Mazda, we got to make something with some power.
It's like a message in a bottle. You just hope someone receives. It's like, let's just leave enough room for Go get me an LS3, measure it, find out how it's going to be, and then when we're putting this car together, we'll leave just enough space and someone will do it.
That's so fun.
I like to tell myself that's what probably happened, and I think probably the guys at Flying Miata would probably agree.
It's so fun. I mean, but when you look at the install is clean. It's very clean.
Oh, it's real good.
Yeah. I mean, I could like if you didn't know what the Mazda Miata was and you didn't know like what the ND's like engine bay looked like if I was just a non-car person, like I would look at this and I wouldn't think twice that this engine didn't belong in here.
Yeah, that was the idea. That's what I liked about this design was that if you'd never seen a Miata before and this is the first one you saw, you wouldn't know that it didn't come this way. And that's kind of, I mean, if you're gonna sell if it's your project car, your own personal car, you don't really care. I mean, as long as it just runs and it's fun. But when it's something that people are paying good money for, and a lot of good money for it, you know, they're hard-earned cash, then it's got to be as good as you can do it, and it's got to look. It can't look like somebody like your brother's project car,
right?
Yep.
You know, so.
Yeah, we've seen how many times on Facebook Marketplace have you seen an LS swap, like whatever vehicle, and like they show the engine bay picture, you're just like, okay, yeah, so you got that in there, like it's in there, yeah, you know. But no, the execution and integration is extremely clean, and I think it's really well done.
Yeah. Trying to think what other questions I have. What about the custom drive shaft? I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Custom one piece.
Yeah, one piece steel drive shaft. It seems like it's almost as wide as it is long. Yeah. So it's it's
so
short.
It's close,
you know.
Well, I mean the wheelbase difference between this and a 5th gen Camaro. I mean. Yeah.
It's actually not that much shorter than the factory drive shaft, but it's just it's got to be. I want to say this one's a 3.5 inch. We were going to experiment with 3 inch, but I decided to try 3.5 inches. There's a little bit tight. There's some provisions for like the parking brake cable that are up in there that were really close, and so we were worried 3.5 inch wouldn't quite fit, but there's enough space. It doesn't make contact with anything, so things just fit. So
that's great.
It all works out great. There's a lot more room. The rear end, there's a lot more room for error and for playing around and doing stuff. The front end is where things are super. You're really threading the needle. And so when customers, if they want one of these, you know, what I do is a service, right? I don't buy the cars off the market, build them and sell them. That might come later down the road, but for now what I'm doing is people are going to bring me preferably their ND1s. But I'll do an ND2 if they're willing to be that guinea pig. And, you know, we know it'll run, but we just don't know if anything's going to be squawking at you. And maybe some lights are going to have to be blanked out on the dash. Who knows?
Montana registrations are a real thing, and they're great. They're wonderful. Yeah. Would recommend.
But the thing is, they cannot bring a car with front end damage. So like Carfax is part of the checklist. You know, you need a car and a Carfax, and I need to see it. Because by the time we get to the point where we realize it's not going to fit, something's not going to fit, we're way past the point of no return. And so it's just too late. And now you've got to return the car back to stock and get rid of it and get one that doesn't have front end damage. And it's just a headache. I don't want it. The customer's not going to want it. Yep. So it's best that the car comes with no history of front end damage at all.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better safe than sorry.
Pick a point off just a little bit can really screw up the whole formula.
Yeah. I mean, it's tight. So, and you know, when we get it on the lift, you'll see, especially up where the headers are. I mean, it is tight in there, and where the exhaust goes down in between the two footwells and up, it tucks in there just right. It just tucks in there just right, but it's tight. There's barely like a finger's width, not even a finger's width between the starter and the collector. Wow. On that side, so everything's wrapped. Heat management is a major part of this conversion.
I was going to say, like even on track today. I mean, it was getting, you know, when we had yours out, the sun was beating down on the track. Like
we had it out there for a good amount of time too.
We were out there for a good amount of time. I didn't feel any excess heat on my feet or anything like that. I mean, like I would feel heat on my feet in my Miata on being on track for a while, especially like the turbo Miata with the downpipe and stuff running down the side of the transmission tunnel there. Like underneath your feet, but I didn't get any sense of that, so that was good. Engine temps were consistent.
Yeah, the ECTs I haven't had any issues with the ECTs. The real issue was just managing all the radiant heat because there's just nowhere for it to go.
Yeah.
And what I didn't want to do is cut holes in the hood and make it look. It needs to look like a street car.
You would never. There's no indicators looking at this from the exterior with the hood closed that there's a V8. I mean, other than the way it sounds, but I'm saying like if you were just had this park not running and you walk by it, there's nothing.
No.
Yeah.
That's cool.
No, if I leave the hoods at Cars and Coffee, it's just another Miata.
Yeah.
But as soon as the hood's up at Cars and Coffee, now it's a.
That's kind of cool though, because like you could really pull some fast ones on people because they're just like, oh, look at this Miata, like. It's like
he's got wide tires and a center exit exhaust. Wonder what he's got under the hood. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean like the wheel and tire combo, like it's
pretty standard for.
It's conservative. Yeah. It's not. I wouldn't. It wouldn't. There's nothing indicating that this is packing this under the hood.
This is 235s, right? You said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
So it's conceivable. I'm sure there's people out there, four-cylinder, especially turbo cars, that they're putting 235s. Some even do the 245s, and they get creative with the alignment and all that. I don't do that. I just want it to fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, the tire size. Yeah, okay. This guy's spent money on. He's put bigger, wider chunks of rubber under the car, but that doesn't necessarily mean you've got a V8.
Oh yeah, 99% of the time, that's just they're doing autocross days.
Yeah.
That's cool, and it's such a new model too. Like it is like the newest model, and no one expects a LS3 under the hood of it.
No, not at all. No, I guess there's a lot of them out there that, especially the NAs. There's a lot of them out there. You can find them from Facebook, Auto Trader, and yeah, there's a lot of people do. In fact, the shop that does the alignments for this car, they had just sold their NA, Panzer Performance in Sarasota. Shout out to those guys. So they've been a huge help. It's always good to have someone do your corner balancing and alignments and all that stuff. Competent people to do that sort of work. They had the V8 NA car that they had sold, I think last year sometime, but they're around. But no, there's only, I think Kyle at Flying Miata built, I think he said he built 7 or 8 of these, like turnkey for customers. And then they sold a handful of kits. So I'm thinking the number is somewhere around 15, give or take, in total out in the wild.
Wow.
And that's it. So you're going to have to do some planning to run into another one of these on the road.
That's even cooler, because then it's like customers getting to know that they have something that's truly unique.
Yeah.
Out there.
Toyota built 1,000 LFAs, and most people consider that rare.
Yeah.
So it's going to take me a while to pump out 1,000 of these. I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Do you know what the turnaround time is from?
It's roughly, I say conservatively, it's 180 hours.
No,
it's a good question. It's a question. The inquiries that I getting over the past couple of months, that's the obvious one.
Yeah.
It's a 180-hour job basically. Now that is 180 hours if I had everything in front of me, which I don't. I don't have everything. I have to get some things from vendors. I do have to get some things made per order, per car. And obviously I don't do the welding, so I outsource that to Tri-H Metals, who are awesome, family-run master welders, family-run metal fabrication company in Sarasota. They're the best, and that subframe had to be perfect, and they got it perfect on the first freaking try.
That's awesome.
So they got everything lined up perfect. I mean, Flying Miata provided the jigs, so the jigs were perfect, and then they got the welding done perfect.
Which doesn't happen.
No, I know.
That does not happen.
I assumed we were probably going to go back and forth a handful of times, just because that's just how it is.
That's great
with metal fabrication, but they got it right the first time, and they do awesome work. Where was I? We were talking about
180 hours.
The turnaround. So 180 hours. So I got to work on their schedule. Everything is powder coated. So once everything's welded, nothing's left exposed.
Yep.
Everything gets powder coated. Even that kind of faux air box there, that's sheet metal. It gets powder coated. Everything gets powder coated. Which brings me to another point. All the hardware I use, I don't skimp on any hardware. So everything's stainless steel.
Nice.
Yeah. And
I love that.
And most of it is 316 stainless steel, and some of it is even Japanese stainless steel.
Nice.
Basically, everything about this car is overkill, so I just didn't see a need to skimp on the hardware. I'm trying to make the car as serviceable as possible. If you're going to end up doing your own work on this thing, for whatever reason, you don't want to have to deal with corrosion and stuff like that. So I want the car to be as easy to live with as possible, and that's kind of the philosophy. It's like a Cobra, a Shelby Cobra that you can live with and not have to fight.
I love that. I think like having nice fasteners everywhere is just such a nice touch for a build. So I appreciate that you're just doing that while you're in there.
Especially if you've ever had to take torches and PV blaster.
We've
and all
all
that.
been there.
Yeah, we live in New England. Yeah,
busting out the acetylene torches is a horrible feeling.
Yeah, it sucks. And so there's no reason. In this case, there's no reason not to. I understand why the factory doesn't do it. They've got bean counters involved, but
everything bottom dollar.
But yeah, I feel like it's the right way to go about doing this on this car.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that you did that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Thanks.
And like even with the diff bolts that have to be just the zinc plate, that's still nicer than most of the OEM hardware anyways, because it has like that gray crappy coating on there that doesn't, I don't know what that coating is, but it's not that resilient to corrosion.
I don't know what it is either.
Yeah, nice, really neat. So you probably have a lot of spare bolts kicking around, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, there.
Yeah, I've got
There
a
you go.
bucket of everything.
Go to him for suspension bolts for your ND.
Yeah.
Yeah. So part of it, I get all the leftover things. So I'm kicking around the idea of doing ND exosets. So because I've got most of what I need. I mean, the suspension comes out.
Oh, that would be cool.
Really, the steering column, I'll have to figure out steering column situation and a cluster and all that. But I'm trying, just off the top of my head, spitballing it. Seems like that's all I really need to source. Once during the conversion process, seems like everything I need, 80% of everything I need for an exoset, an ND exoset, comes out of the car. So
How do you feel about that as an exoset owner yourself?
I think it's great. I mean, coming with the more power and a more efficient engine, like
Modern
to start
engine?
with, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, I don't know how much of a market there'll be. So definitely like.
Yeah, because I think that one of the things with exosets is it's cheap.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's.
But
it.
that's that's why that swap is so ideal, is because like all the electronic crap, it doesn't matter anymore,
Yeah.
because you don't have to run body electronics and the other stuff. It's literally just the engine electronics.
Yeah.
You might be onto something there, Lawrence.
Yeah.
I like it.
The direct injection, so I guess I got to figure out, I'll have to make sure, get a fuel system that supports it, because the fuel tank's going to stay in the car. So
Oh yeah. Well, they use all the stock fuel components for the exoset too. The fuel tank and pump and everything. All that is all the same.
So
All
I
those
have
came out of the
everything I
car,
need to
so-
do ND exosets. So if someone wants to get a 2-for-1, I'm open to it.
Yeah, we may know some folks at Exomotive that we can get you in touch with.
We did work with them.
Shout out to Exomotive.
Yeah, you guys are great.
Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit about how this thing drove today? Because I'm sure people want to. They got a good gist of the technical details.
Yep.
Good, you go first, Matthew.
I'll
put you on the spot.
I did a few hot laps in the thing at the end of the day. I was exhausted. I didn't go crazy in it.
Yeah.
Because one, it's like I just met Lawrence today, and he's giving me
Listen,
the keys.
don't give us this spiel about people giving me your keys. I let you drive the FD
No,
to
I
and
drove the
from
FD
the track
today too.
Today.
It was great. It was a great day. It was so cool because I'm so familiar with the ND Miata. Like I've driven multiple ND Miatas on track, and it felt like an ND Miata with gobs of horsepower. So I barely had I felt like I didn't even have to try to pick up speed. It was just so easy. And I've always been such a huge fan of the Shelby Cobra. It's always been like one of my favorite cars of all time. And that's exactly what this thing feels like.
Well, it's like a much more manageable Shelby Cobra.
Yeah, but more refined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Everything works. It has a start-stop button. It has air conditioning. It has Apple CarPlay. It has like a hard top.
Windows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Like it was a great experience. I mean, that was probably like one of the better like power to weight ratio cars I've driven on that track. Mm-hmm. And it was cool. It's nice having that much horsepower.
I want to say this is probably one of the best power to weight ratio cars I've ever driven. And what a way to wake up your day well, I mean, I guess we were there early afternoon, but like just to like hop on track and just go right into this thing is like, it perks you up quite a bit, because it's as soon as you like really put your foot down, you're like, wow, this thing is a wild ride. But I mean, it's exhilarating, and like Matt said, there's torque and power everywhere on tap. I in my traditional fashion, I just started attacking after the couple warm-up laps with it. But I mean, it was definitely, I think I said it in the video, this is definitely like the craziest Miata I've ever driven. Just in the sense that like you have such an insane power to weight ratio, but it like not crazy in a sense where like, oh my god, this thing is like dangerous and out of control. It still has all the inherent handling characteristics of a Miata, which I thought is really cool. I mean, we talked about just a couple little tweaks in the suspension tuning, but it's not like, those are easy. adjustments. Everything is still there, and it works together, which was like, I wasn't expecting that. So it was a nice.
It doesn't feel like it's trying to kill you. I guess kind of like Vipers have gotten a reputation. Some people feel like the car's trying to kill them and they have to fend it off.
It has a surprising amount of mechanical grip. Like I was very surprised.
Yeah, I was as well. Yeah. Flying Miata said it would have a lot of mechanical grip, and I was like, okay, I mean maybe, but it's an understatement. It really does.
Yeah. Especially like taking into account it's only a 235 wide tire.
Yeah, no, that's not a wide tire.
Putting down 440 foot-pounds, like that's you're asking a tire like that size to do a lot, you know, and it manages it very well, like more. Surprising more well than I thought it was going to manage.
I mean, I guess that's tire. I mean, I guess that's a testament of the Falcons, that particular model.
RT660s are very sought after now. They're kind of like the new RE71s.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
that was my first time experiencing them, but like they were
same
good.
Here.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I have this distinct memory on like getting on the turn 2, which is the back straightaway, and like just rolling in on second. I mean, it's just like that cam comes on and it's like, bah, the exhaust valve opens up because I'm feathering throttle getting into turn 2. But when everything just happens, it's like this angry, Ryan King would say it comes on the pipe. Right, it really comes on the pipe though, and even that shift in the third, you know, I could feel some wheel spin happening still, like because it's just so much power and propulsion forward. Yeah, it was wild.
So I've always loved muscle cars, but I've always felt like their Achilles heel is just the weight. Behind them. This is the best of both worlds.
No, that like so going back to the whole like modern day like Shelby Cobra. Yeah. It really is a modern day Shelby Cobra that's just like not a piece of crap, right? Because Shelby Cobra's cool, but it's a piece of crap.
It's super raw. I mean, even if like the Factory 5 replicas, and I know a couple guys with those, and I mean, if you put a Coyote in one of those, it's still super raw, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's super raw. So it's just the rawness is just dialed down to a much more civil level. I hate the shifter. The thing I hate the most about the Shelby Cobra replicas is that crazy shifter.
The angled shifter,
It's just weird.
You're almost like pulling up. I've driven one. I've driven a 427 Cobra before.
Oh,
it had that shifter. It was a little awkward.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's unnatural. It's kind of like a Jeep, like a Wrangler, a manual Wrangler or something like that.
Up and down.
But other than that, everything else about the way it looks, the way it sounds, and the whole experience. The whole experience is just mind-blowingly fun. Yeah. But like you can't get caught in the rain. You can't leave it out someplace overnight. You know, you can't like overnight in a hotel somewhere on a road trip and do something like that. And that's
this is where like stealth mode incognito.
Yeah,
you know, it's just the Miata.
Yep. It's got all the modern amenities like the keyless fob. He was like hitting the fob and the windows went up and like
so it's got all the goodies. So the customer cars will have all the goodies. From the guy Sergey does mx5things.com. So it'll come with all the goodies. So the one-touch window up the factory gives you the one-touch down, and so this gives you the one-touch windows up, and then the one-touch roof up and down. Because for whatever reason, Mazda decided you needed to hold that button the whole time. I don't get that.
Yeah, I've got to do that to my NC. They've got a kit.
Oh, is the NC the same way?
Yeah, they have it where you can just unlatch it and it goes down.
Oh, yeah.
Flying Miata.
So this is the same thing. So it's one touch up and down, and then the same functionality that keeps the power on. So from the factory, when you hit the engine off, it kills the power. So if you're on Bluetooth on a call, it drops your call, right?
Okay.
Because it kills power to the car. Now, when you can cut the engine off, but power stays on until you open the door or until 10 minutes passes. And then it'll kill it. That way you can stay on the phone or just keep rocking out to whatever song you were listening to. You got the latest Yanni cassette or whatever. You can just rock out.
Nice.
That functionality lets the key fob work. So with key fob, you can put the top down and the windows down with the unlock button, and vice versa. With the lock button, you put the top up and windows up and lock the car. So part of the creature comforts, the hood struts, that's part of the package
as well. Hood struts are a must, yeah.
So backup cameras, if it's an ND one, a 2017 or older, then I put in the backup camera. That's part of it. the aluminum pedals, the suede interior. That steering wheel is not the factory steering wheel. It's beautiful. It's a thing of work.
The gauges were done by Adam.
The gauge faces by Adam. Rev limiter. Adam was excellent to work with.
Which, speaking of Adam, so the font and the numbers are the same that Adam did for me for my ND.
I thought it looked familiar.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it's inspired from BMW. That kind of font and pattern.
It was GT40.
Okay, I'm sorry, that's what it was. The GT40.
Yeah, it's inspired by the GT40. It's close to a replica. It's not exact. Yeah. And then he provided me the font so I could get Craven speed to design the proper gate diagram on the shift knob using the exact same font. Cool. So the font matches. So
that's awesome.
I'm anal about that sort of stuff. Man.
Like that. Like that's how this. You know that this is not. You're not just like I don't have a better way of eloquently saying this because my brain is like half working. Pump and dump. I know it sounds like you're not just a pump and dump and shop. Is that bad?
It's fine.
Do we have to cut that out?
No. How long? No one's gonna be this long into it anyway.
How long? Yeah, but how long? How else would you say that? Like you just get the swap done, dump it out. Like that's it. Like he's putting
like
that extra.
Like wham bam, thank you ma'am type thing.
Yeah, at least my
nut and bolt.
Fly by night. I get what you're saying.
It's an extensive, cohesive build. It's cool.
Well, I got into this because I wanted one of these for myself.
Yeah.
That's what got me into this. When I saw that Flying Miata was doing this, I was like, I have to have one of these. And when I saw what was involved in building, I was like, okay, I got to get a lift. I got to learn how to weld. I got to this. I need all these tools I don't have. So, like, the price of the car and the kit was only a fraction of what the cost was going to be. So I was like, well, once I've got all this stuff, I might as well do it for other people.
Yeah.
Right. All the stuff will pay for itself at that point, right?
That's a true labor of love too.
And so that's what got me is I wanted it for myself. So this is how I would want it kind of. I wanted to be like OEM. I wanted to be like if Mazda or someone just made a V8 modern day Shelby Cobra type formula, then it would come out like this because that's how I would. That's how I would like to have it.
It's the same formula, exact same formula. It's just a modern car.
Yeah, just Japanese, not British.
Yeah,
that's a great overview of this. It was really cool.
Yeah,
I don't know. Really cool car.
Thanks. Yeah. It's a riot to drive. It's fun. It gets ridiculous amounts of attention.
Yep.
So and then the mental disconnect. People. I've been stopped by sheriff's deputies in Florida. I've been stopped by a couple sheriff's deputies just because of the sound.
Yeah, they want to see what's in
the hood. They're like, dude, what the hell is going on? Obviously, the guy's a gearhead himself. Yeah. He's probably got a Corvette or something back in his, or a 392 Jeep, who knows, back in his garage. And sheriff's deputies, and then just random people, like old timers I had this old dude up at the traffic light just down the road from my shop, and he was, I don't know if you remember when Chevy made those 454 SS pickup trucks.
Oh yeah.
Like with the big garish decal on the side. It was beat up, but kind of a similar sound. And so he was next to me at the traffic light, and he's like, that doesn't sound like a 4-cylinder. And I was like, hey, I think I got an exhaust leak. He's like, that's not an exhaust leak, man. So
that's awesome.
It gets tons of attention, and then when you go to car shows and you leave the hood up, then boom, it's like flies on sugar, sugar water.
You should bring it to LS Fest.
I'd like to. I don't know if I'll be able to this year, but I will go at some point, probably next year. I'll be doing mostly kind of promoting, getting in front of who I think my target market is. Yeah. So HPDE people who participate in that, Miata owners. There's going to be a lot of overlap between Miata owners and the people that I'm non-Miata owners. People who maybe they're not necessarily. They were Porsche owners maybe or Corvette owners, but they don't like all the electric nannies, and they don't like the loss of manual transmissions. They still want a V8. They want an open top. They want a manual transmission, and they want just to drive the car and not have the car drive for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I get in front of those folks. LS Fest would be good. Always exposure is good. Any exposure is good.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like Gap, Miata Con.
But I gotta be frugal with my budget, so I got to make the most effective choices. So we'll do on the calendar this year is summer camp at Flying Miata. So that'll be in June. A couple of HPD events. Barber will be Monday, this coming up Monday, and then COTA in the first weekend of June. And then Miata's at the Gap. If I don't blow my entire marketing budget by then Miata's at the Gap in August. So I'll be there, and there's going to be people who've made inquiries, and they're going to want to see the car.
Yeah, take them for rides and stuff like that. Yeah,
and they can see the car in first person. They can see the level of the work done, and pictures hide a lot. Everybody knows that. Everybody's bought a car sight unseen.
Sure.
Knows. So
know that firsthand.
So that'll give people a chance to see it up close and personal, and having guys like you guys do what I can't do for myself. With your driving and you guys' production abilities, then it gets it out in front of folks in a way that I couldn't present it to them. So
yeah,
awesome.
Glad we can help. And
yeah,
I know once you do settle on the suspension tuning on this, you can say this is developed a little bit with the slip.
There you go, man.
Part of this project.
Yeah. I'll take the free consultation, suspension consultation.
Yeah. No, I mean it's all there. Just needs a little tweaking. Man, it's a weapon for sure.
Yeah.
So if folks want to find more information, where can they find you?
So SarasotaSupersport.com. Also on Instagram, on X, or formerly Twitter. I think on X it's something like 3SP Posts. I don't know why. I think because I created that account and I thought Sarasota Super Sport was too long, and then I went right around and on Instagram I created Sarasota Super Sport. So those are the best ways. The contact information is on the website. There's a contact form, and then I just put the address and phone number on there too. If you do contact me through the site and if you don't get a response within 24 hours, it's in your spam box because I answer everything within 24 hours.
That's good.
Yeah, definitely check your spam box if you don't get a reply from me. Otherwise, just send me a text message. That's the business line. I'll get the message. I return all the messages. I'm not doing this for my health.
Listen, as one business owner to another, I do the same thing. Yeah. I can totally appreciate that and respect that because a lot of companies don't do that.
Yeah, well,
they don't, and I could see your passion in your project, and I totally appreciate and respect that.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
closing it out.
Let's close it out.
Yeah,
guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Definitely check out. I'm gonna say this: Sarasota Super Sports Performance. Is it
Super Sport?
Super Sport.
One sport.
Oh,
yeah.
The brain's not all there. Long day.
Long.
But check out Lawrence's website. Look up his amazing build here, and check out our track video when we release that.
Yeah, I don't know what order this is going to get released, but this is one of a few videos that we're going to make for this car. So
yeah.
Check out the other videos.
They'll all be dropping around the same time.
Yeah.
But and then head over to slipanglemedia.com. Check out our new web store. We're not selling turnkey V8 Miata conversions, but we do have some tuner parts up there.
Yep.
It helps support the channel. So that is it for this one, guys. Lawrence, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
And we'll see you all in the next one. Good night.